I want to talk today about the evolution of a musician. Now, when you're first starting out as a musician and you start out at a young age, you're full of piss and vinegar. You've got all that energy. You've got youth on your side. And depending on, what kind of player you were, if you grew up in my generation, everybody was trying to play faster. Everybody was trying to play louder. Everybody was trying to, squeeze as many notes into a space as possible. Something hit me yesterday, listening to my friend Roger Carter, who, went on to have a great career and tons of studio stuff and owns his own studio and played on lots of albums. And, I played with him when we were very young, and we were all, on that train of, learning to, what works and what doesn't work as a player. Because if you're just sitting in your room, you're not actually playing with people and actually recording what you do, you may never evolve. It takes getting out of your comfort zone and working with a band or recording or doing something to really analyze what you're doing. Now, I've got lots of friends in the music business and that I've known for a long time. And I knew them when they were young, and I know how they played when they were young. And it was very exciting how they played. And sometimes I would miss, as an older guy and maybe having them on a gig later in life, sometimes I would miss the energy that they brought, back then. But reality is they've evolved as musicians. And, my friend said, keep it simple. It's like sometimes it is harder. In fact, I know for a fact that it is harder to play quiet and to play with control and to play perfectly in time or manipulate the time, playing behind the beat at certain moments and maybe a little ahead at times. And then when you choose to really getting into that pocket, these are all things that young players just don't know how to do. And they can do all, they can get on Instagram and they can do all this, and it's it seems really impressive. But there's a few that I watch and I cheer them on. Hey, great job. And, but I can't help but think they're either headed for hand problems later in life or a rude awakening at some point, because you're going to get in a situation and you're going to get asked, to do things. And it takes a certain level of maturity. You're going to learn the tough lessons. We've all had moments where you get confronted with your tone or your technique, and especially in the studio where there's no place to hide. All of a sudden they pull up your sound and you listen to it in the control room where you're separate from the sound. It's one thing to hear your amp, in the room and the reflections off the wall and all of this, but when it's close mic'd and then pumped into the other room, that's a whole different experience. So the evolution of a player becomes when you start adapting, you start editing what you do, and you start adjusting, because what you're doing as a young player is not working in the particular situation that you're in. Now, if you don't ever end up playing with anybody and you're just one of these, Instagram guitarists, and you're not actually playing gigs, then you may never really mature, because A musician works in many different situations. Working with a vocalist is a completely different thing than somebody that just practices solos all the time. You've got to learn to adapt. If you're a drummer, there's a lot of those old school singers out there that, it's too slow or it's too fast. They'll be giving directions to the drummer or maybe the whole band. And you've got to learn to deal with that. When you're a young guy and somebody gets in your face and in the heat of battle, and I call being on stage the heat of battle. And it's kind of a unwritten rule that, things that happen in the heat of battle, when you're yelling at somebody on stage, it's really sometimes the only way to get their attention, especially if they're lost in the moment. So you're not yelling at them because you're ticked off. Maybe you're a little ticked off, but you're yelling because you've got to get their attention. It's, hey man, hey, we're going to go to the floor. Go to the floor, or whatever direction you're trying to give them. And, some people can, take that the wrong way. A young player can get very upset if you're telling them, especially if it's a drummer that's, I'm on my click and I've got my, and this is the tempo, and it becomes an argument. And you have to, the evolution of a musician is you have to know who's paying you. If you're a band, but you're backing a singer, and the singer is who is name is on the bill, it doesn't matter if you guys found this guy and you're a huge responsibility for his success. If his name is on the bill, then you work for him. And as a mature player, you're gonna know that. And if he wants something, you just try to make him happy. And that really comes down to the basis of anything, whether it's a producer or a singer or the audience. You're just trying to make them happy. So, the evolution of a player is really just doing what it takes to continue getting paid, to continue getting calls, and to keep playing, right? So I can listen back to, tapes of myself when I was 20 years old and, full of myself, unable to take criticism. I'd get ticked off if somebody, was telling me something, telling me what to do. I would get ticked off. And that didn't serve me well in the long run. It took many years, probably at least 10 years, before I started realizing, man, it's no big deal. There used to be a thing that David Lee Roth used to say. He says, the key to being on the road is don't sweat the small stuff, and the second key is it's all small stuff. Now, I don't know if he actually adhered to that policy, but that's something I found very profound, because, you kind of got to let everything kind of just roll off your shoulder in this business. Everybody's going to have an opinion. You might have the singer's girlfriend giving you an opinion, and if she could be the one paying you, she could be the manager. I've been in situations where the wife is the manager, and the wife sends out the emails, and the wife tells you what to do, and the wife is flying to every gig and communicating with you and all that. And you just have to, you got to make her happy, and your demeanor has got to be amicable. and, happy and, oh, great. The way you speak, everything. It's if they don't like you, they're not going to hire you. So you've got to become somebody that they want to be around. And, humor can be your friend. If you make people laugh, and I've been, I know in this channel you get a lot of reality, and there's not much chance for humor. There is some humor in my videos, but I will say this: I've made a career of being in the green room and cracking people up, and I found and the saying that people don't remember. What is it? People don't remember you, but they remember how you made them feel. So I know when I left Nashville, I know people were like, man, Bad Brad and those stories, and everybody's like, man, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. I know that by one, I was always good at one-liners. If somebody throws a phrase out there and it's you go, wait a minute, it's got a double meaning or something, I would always just have a quick comeback, and it's just something I've done so many years. But sitting in the green room, cracking people up, telling funny stories, commenting on the people in the crowd. Hey, did you see that guy? And he looked like this or whatever, or oh my God, this. So humor, humility, being able to take criticism, being able to make people laugh and smile just by seeing you. You can walk into the room, and you can walk in the room and be, hey, how you doing? Yeah. That guy, Mr. Sourface, or if you're a woman, resting bee face, that's not going to make anybody happy. When you come in the room, you walk in backstage, light up the room. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Is everybody doing great? I mean, you could have just gotten the worst news of your life. But you're in a situation where you're dealing with the people that are paying your bills. Man, put that smile on. The tears of a clown. Everybody loves a clown, so why don't you, right? Played that song 100 times with Gary Lewis. There's a lot of truth to bringing the humor, having great humility, being able to take direction, editing your playing. Talking to my friend the other day, he's played on all these albums, and one of the projects he had done is the last album of Glenn Campbell. And if you'd have known my friend Roger Carter in his 20s, and man, he was very set in his ways, and he was one of those guys that just he could play louder than any Marshall Stack ever created. And he gets the call to play on this Glenn Campbell record, and they need very sparse playing, very dynamic playing as far as quiet and chill. And he said, man, it was hard to do. It was hard to do because that wasn't how he normally played. And I can attest to this. Playing quiet and playing reserved and keeping the intensity to a low roar. These are things that takes time to learn to do. Young players don't know how to rein it in and pull it back. I've had people not necessarily tell me to turn it down, but to turn the intensity down. I'm one of those guys, when I take a guitar solo, I like to turn up the heat. I like to get it to right around where the water's gonna boil. And but sometimes that's not what they want. And if you're in a situation where they want you to play quiet, you've got to realize I'm here to collect a paycheck. I'm not here to show people how good a player I am or how hot a guitar solo I can play. And at that point, I learned, I've learned over time that tell myself, this is a paycheck. I'm here to do a job. If that's the job they want, then that's the job they get. It's no skin off my back. But as a 20-year-old, man, you couldn't have told me that. I would have been, dude, I'm gonna totally, I'm here to rip, bro. Dude, did you hear my totally? Oh, dude, I had to learn to lose all of that and just play what the gig wanted. Just do what they want, man. I'm here to hey, my rent depends on it. My mortgage depends on it. My light bill depends on it. My water bill depends on it. And when you're depending on it for your source of income, you learn to evolve, adapt, and mature so that you can keep the bills paid.